you can play Halloween, you can put lipstick on a pig. It is still a pig, and it is just Halloween. So I just feel very strongly about that, and I wanted to make that clear. And that this is a large part, though, Piers, going back to your point of why, because my sisters were on the left, and this is the first election that they voted for Trump. They're from Connecticut, dyed-in-the-wool Democrats, I guess you could say, and they moved away. And the trans issue was the number one reason that they did. Yeah. What they said was happening in the school system made them fearful. They have sons. They thought it was completely crazy and bizarre that they're insisting upon trying to make toddlers. My sisters have toddlers believe that they can be anything that they want and that they're non-binary. They truly believe the left has gone crazy. And they say, I didn't leave the left left me. And that is an accurate statement to make, because they cannot just see things that are just so plainly obvious. They are trying to criminalize the idea that a woman is a woman, and you can't just become a woman because you feel a certain way on the inside. And the right, like I'm doing right now, I will just say it as it is, right? You are not a woman. I am sorry that you are suffering from a mental disorder.
Oh man, it keeps getting better and better. The meltdowns from the woke lunatics out there since Donald Trump won the 2024 presidential election. It just can't get much better than this, man. What a glorious few days it's been. This time we have Candace Owens going on Piers Morgan Uncensored and absolutely destroying this race baiter Marc Lamont Hill for his hypocrisy, for his lies. Let's get into this clip here where Candace Owens calls out this black guy for being absolutely racist against white people and against others in the country as well. And it seems very obvious that the entire left wing is very racist against not just white people, but against every race who didn't percentage-wise vote for Kamala Harris. Like, imagine being a Latino voter in the United States, and because 57% of Latinos, or whatever it was, I think it was actually 70-something%, voted for Donald Trump. Imagine being in that 30%, and now you have CNN and MSNBC calling you racist, all Latinos racist and sexist because 70% of you voted for Donald Trump. You think that those 30% are still going to continue to vote for the left wing, for Kamala Harris or whoever comes after her? Of course not. They're not that stupid. Let's get into this clip here where Candace Owens destroys this woke idiot for being a racist live on Piers Morgan Uncensored.
I'll disagree with you on the big point. As far as the race piece of this, or the misogyny piece of this, pointing to a left-wing newspaper and saying, well, look, it's not misogyny. A left-wing newspaper was questioning this. Left-wing newspapers are misogynist. Democrats are misogynist. Misogyny isn't a right-wing problem. It's a universal problem. So just because it's in a left-wing newspaper doesn't nullify the claim.
But it's a valid critique. I'm sorry to cut you off. I don't like to cut you off, but I just want to say, do you not think it's a valid critique if somebody is given a job, not because they're qualified, but quite literally because they are sleeping with someone who gave them the position, which, like I said, caused a firestorm at that time? Do you not think it's a valid critique to say, well, they weren't even qualified to be the DA, and now all of a sudden they're trying to tell you that they're qualified to be the president of the United States? Don't you think that's a valid critique, like setting aside misogyny?
If that were the point I was making, I would agree with you. But that wasn't the point. That was an example you gave that wasn't responsive to the point I was making. I'm saying right now, as she's running for president, there are people saying she's unqualified for the office. I think it's much more of a reasonable question to raise. 20 years ago when she's running for DA, I didn't take issue with that, right? Although I don't know enough about the Willie Brown situation to speak to it. If what you're saying is true, then yeah, you should question that. But I'm saying right now in 2024, after serving as vice president, after serving in the U.S. Senate, after serving as a district attorney, after having all of these jobs, state attorney general, I don't think qualification is the right thing to raise. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say, I don't think she's good at this. I think it's perfectly reasonable to say,
what about?
I mean, isn't that a qualification? Because what I was going to say is, okay, maybe you're correct. On paper, she served in all these positions and her qualifications look good on paper, but she's an absolute idiot. And there's no question she's an absolute idiot. Wouldn't intelligence be a small qualification, a small qualifier for being the president of the United States? Shouldn't you be at least a bit intelligent? Like, say what you want about Barack Obama, but the guy's pretty smart, right? Say what you want even about Hillary Clinton. She's obviously, I think she's a pretty evil person, but I think she's a pretty intelligent person at the same time. She's not an absolute idiot. Kamala Harris is an absolute idiot. I don't even think she's that evil of a person. I just think she's an empty puppet. It's the same thing with Joe Biden, except Kamala Harris is way younger. She's just an idiot from birth. So I don't know how she held all those positions in office. It doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, on paper, great qualifications, but wouldn't intelligence be a pretty significant qualifier for someone being the president? I think that counts as a qualification. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree.
Okay, but Mark, what about the
I think it's a different issue.
Let's move to the trans
point.
Yes.
I'm going to the trans point. To the trans point, I don't think it's a contradiction for Democrats to do that unless they accept the terms of your argument. Let me be clear. If you think that trans women are not women, then yes, it would be a violation of women's rights to say that trans women should be boxing. I happen to believe.
I'm sorry. Mark.
I need to finish. No. I insist on finishing this point because I will not be cut off and misrepresented. But let me make the point. Okay. I happen to believe that biological males should not participate in women's sports. I am fine taking that position. Yeah, that's my point. Sometimes if you hear me out, you'll realize we're not even debating. But there are many Democrats who don't take that position. There are many people on the left who believe that, and let me be clear, I think trans women are women. I just think sports are divided in a very particular way. In 8th grade, we make a decision that we need to divide sports up by gender or by sex, right? Because we believe that there's something fundamentally different about biological boys and biological girls that say we shouldn't be running on the same track team. We shouldn't be boxing.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Each other. I'm okay with that argument. I agree with that argument. I don't want to speak for Candace, but I suspect she agrees with me on this, and I suspect you agree with me on that. So we're not in disagreement on that. But just because I have that position doesn't mean that everyone who disagrees with me is being a hypocrite, because they don't begin from the same premise that I begin from. That's all I'm saying. So I don't think it's contradictory.
Hang on. All right, let me hang on. But what other premise could there possibly be? The bottom line is these are people who were born biological males who are competing against biological females. And there's a reason why we don't do that in sport. It's why the Olympics have always separated the sexes, because the truth is, if they didn't, women wouldn't win any medals.
Look, I mean, listen, I know that
I think what you should do is bring someone in who has the position that you're trying to debate. It's like you're trying to force a debate with me on something that we agree on. So bring on somebody who has the opposite position, and they can speak for that. But what I'm saying is that
I just wanted to add here, like, just to say where we do actually differentiate, like, trans women are absolutely not women. And that's why we're playing the crazy game right now, is because we have people that are trying to parse reality and say, well, I believe trans women are women, but they're also biological men. Like, the fact that we are calling them trans women, it is because they are not women. I am a woman, and no matter how you feel on the inside, you are never going to be a woman. And that disagreement, that fundamental disagreement, is the reason why we are playing the crazy game. I won't play it. I will not address a man that is in a dress as a woman. It's insulting to me. It's insulting to the things that actual women live through in their lives. And, you know, you can play Halloween, you can put lipstick on a pig. It is still a pig, and it is just Halloween. So I just feel very strongly about that, and I wanted to make that clear. And that this is a large part, though, Piers, going back to your point of why, because my sisters were on the left, and this is the first election that they voted for Trump. They're from Connecticut, dyed-in-the-wool Democrats, I guess you could say, and they moved away. And the trans issue was the #1 reason that they did. Yeah. What they said was happening in the school system made them fearful. They have sons. They thought it was completely crazy and bizarre that they're insisting upon trying to make toddlers. My sisters have toddlers believe that they can be anything that they want and that they're non-binary. They truly believe the left has gone crazy. And they say, I didn't leave the left left me. And that is an accurate statement to make, because they cannot just see things that are just so plainly obvious. They are trying to criminalize the idea that a woman is a woman, and you can't just become a woman because you feel a certain way on the inside. And the right, like I'm doing right now, I will just say it as it is, right? You are not a woman. I am sorry that you are suffering from a mental disorder. If you were suffering from any other mental disorder, I would treat you the same way. I want you to get better. But because you are suffering from a mental disorder does not mean that I have to pretend that I have a mental disorder and that I see things differently. I don't.
I mean, Mark, I'll let you respond directly to what Candace says there. Well, let me just point out one thing. Let me just point out one thing. There was a New York Times report today that said that one of the most effective Trump ads during the presidential race towards the end was the one where he had Kamala Harris saying, she'll call you they, them, I'll call you you, or whatever it was. And that turned out to be, to the Trump campaign team's surprise, one of their most effective ads of the whole race, apparently, which suggests it is a much bigger issue than some Democrats clearly want people.
Well, 100% is a bigger issue, because if you just think about, I mean, in my opinion, even outside of the whole trans women or women stuff, the world has gone absolutely insane. a lot of people back in the day, whenever I was growing up, I'm not old enough to actually have a strong opinion whenever this whole thing was going on. But whenever like the gay marriage stuff was legalized, everybody was like, oh, I'm not really that against gay marriage, but it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. And I know that everybody said they're ridiculous for saying that. You're just a bigot, whatever. But it really was a slippery slope. Like, it's wild to me. And I'll die on this hill. I think we should be much more ashamed of the fact that abortion was ever legal in this country at all, that it wasn't ever nationally banned to kill babies, kill babies. Like, it's awful. And we should be much more ashamed of that than we have ever been ashamed of slavery. I think that shouldn't even be a competition. And the fact that it's kind of just out of the picture and that everybody on the right wing is behind a guy and Donald Trump, and I'm also behind the guy. I'm so glad that he won. But the fact that we are all just behind this guy who has said multiple times he doesn't want to ban abortion is crazy. That's what the Christian conservatives are voting for. That's who their cult leader is Donald Trump, the guy who doesn't even want to ban abortion nationally. He's not even in the question. That's crazy. Because imagine, if somebody came out and said that they were against the banning of slavery. And in my opinion, we should be way more ashamed of abortion than slavery. So the point that I'm trying to make is that's the country that we currently live in. That is the accepted conservative view that banning abortion is bad. So if we're living in this country that I deem is absolutely insane, even on the conservative side, imagine being so insane on the left that you alienate other Democrats for being too left-wing. You have to be saying some nutty stuff for that to be the case. And they are saying some absolutely nutty stuff. Like Candace Owens is saying to Marc Lamont Hill right now, trans women, calling them women is ridiculous because you just literally called them trans women because they are not women. So, I mean, Candace Owens is spot on here. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this Candace Owens appearance on Piers Morgan Uncensored, where she absolutely demolishes this racist guy, Marc Lamont Hill, the race baiter, liar, whatever word you want to use to describe him. He's an absolute idiot. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this Candace Owens versus Marc Lamont Hill heated debate here on Piers Morgan Uncensored.